Hello everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction. I was so inspired this morning, so I hope you are too, and that you grab some coffee, because we are gonna talk about opportunities. And there were a lot of talks and questions yesterday when I was here about dual track, how do you do delivery, how do you do discovery. And my talk, it's about how we actually do it in practice at Hemnet. And before I go into that, I normally have this slide when I talk outside of Sweden, because you might be thinking, this really weird name, Hemnet, what is that thing? And I don't even have to say anything when I'm in Sweden, because Hemnet is one of the biggest brands that there is in Sweden. Basically, you think about Hemnet, you think about Spotify, you think about Netflix. It's like top 6 most used product in the country. And we actually have one number that I always talk about. It's my favorite number ever. It's 38 minutes per week. That's the minutes that every single Swede spends on Hemnet. So if we take all the minutes that are spent on our platform, we divided that by the population, we have 38 minutes per month, which is blowing my mind, because I had never worked with a product that could have a per capita number. And why is this important to me? Because it's a really big product, but also it's a product that is used for a really important step in everyone's life. It's basically, you go to us when you want to buy or sell a property. So, it's this really emotional thing that you're doing, the biggest investment of your life. And I have the great pleasure of working with this product, but with great power comes great responsibility. So I think we have this burden of making things right when we work with this product, because it's such an important product for many. And I'm also gonna give you a little bit of a background of the Hemnet organization, just to have that context, because my talk is gonna be really practical on how we did something. So it's important to have an idea of the organization, so you can compare where you work. We are around 150 people. Roughly half of it is product development, so around 80 people working in product development, and we are 9 product development teams. Every team is built around customers, and I'm gonna go more in detail about that. But have that in the back of your head when I'm talking about everything we're doing. We might be 3 times as large as a startup. We might be just one single thing of your organization if you're a big one with 1,000 people. Enough about me and my company. These are those 2 things that I want to talk with you about today. I go through continuous discovery, and especially how we work with the famous framework from Teresa Torres, the Opportunity Solution Tree, how we started with it and how we did it really practically. And also, I have some really real life examples of how we did things and how we actually miserably failed with some other things. So you can kind of think about this when you try this at home, hopefully. And how I'm gonna talk about it, that's our story. And it's 1.5-year-long story. We started with this in 2020. So we've learned quite a lot of things. And I'm gonna go through, as every story, right? There's a starting point, then you have someone that it's a hero, then does something, and then you need that helper to make things better. And then at some point, you feel like, oh my God, this is never gonna work. And I have been that cat many times, like, oh my God, like, why, how, help me, God, why are we doing this? But yeah, at the end, if you take a step back, you always have some learnings. So buckle up. You're gonna hear our story and a lot of practical tips here. The start. Every good story has a start. And our start was almost exactly 2 years ago. It was a gray November day in 2020 in Sweden. It's almost like Macbeth, with all that fog, and it's really cold and it's really dark. And everyone was sitting home because it was COVID. And in the midst of all of this, I have this brilliant idea, because I've been CPO for almost a year then, and I was like, we need a product strategy, because we need direction and we need what we're doing, and how do we prioritize if we don't have a product strategy? And so this journey started with our product strategy. And I mean, when we talk about product strategy, I'm gonna talk really specifically what product strategy for us. And I said we have product teams based on customer groups. And our product strategy basically is a behavior that we want to drive for that customer. It's a business goal, that's always where we start, but instead of saying we wanna grow revenue by 20%, that's not a strategy, that's a wishful thinking. So we take that and we think, okay, what do we need customer to do for actually get there? And then that's the behavior that we use basically to make decision. And that's also something really easy, really like, you know, that every single team is able to have in mind, in the back of your head, every time they make a decision. And for us, it's long-term, and when I say long-term, we use a framework of 3 years, because many times this behavior that we want to put, and I'm gonna soon give you an example, takes time. I mean, you know, it's not that you do a thing and all of a sudden people start doing something else. I mean, that's why we have just really 3 years that ties really good with Jana was talking about, you know, this road, where are we heading? That's basically telling us where we're heading, and then we have to figure out how. This is an example. We are a platform for property sellers and buyers. So this is something that we want to do. That's a strategy. All consumers, and we call consumers our users, so people that are coming to us without paying, all consumers in Sweden, of course, because we are a platform only in Sweden, come to us first when they want to look for a real estate agent. This is not something they do now, but this is something that we see that if we do this, this is gonna drive our B2B revenue, for example. So that's a strategy for the next 3 years. How do we make those people come to us first when they look for an agent? And when in that November day we started with this kind of behavior, something happened, kind of magical, is that customer behavior got a really central role in product development. So when you have that sentence there, then you start thinking about how should we drive this behavior? How do we make people come to us to look for an agent? And also you start thinking about, hopefully, wait a minute, are those things that we're working on helping with this or not? So these two questions here were the Kickstarter of our journey. And you see the OST is the Opportunity Solution 3, just to give you like what that acronyms means. This what kickstarted the work. As easy as that. We started talking about customers. And that would have not been enough though. We also had another thing that was really important in this, our hero in this story, our enabler. And the enabler for us, I want to put something straight here from the beginning. We did not approach this as a big plan, you know. I was not sitting and thinking, oh my God, agile transformation, discovery transformation, let's make this the framework for everybody. No, no, no. I never seen that working. This was also not something that we knew from the beginning that would have worked. That was not the thing. What we did is that we saw a team that started experiment with this, and that experiment went really well, and that's why we scale it up. I want to put it up there because, I mean, that's part of the journey. I mean, we have not had everything figured out from the beginning, but we started with something, and that something was a team. And I had 3 ingredients that were really important for us for kickstarting this journey. The one was that product strategy, because I don't think that we would have had thought about talking with customer and customer behavior if we have not formulated the strategy in that way. If you kind of like you do A/B test, we more or less had the same teams before, but they had not done this work because the strategy was more like, oh, grow 20%, or another strategy was have the best search experience. I know some of you sit with this as well. Be best in class. Yeah, that doesn't really help me, right? I'm not gonna think what my customer wants. The second part, really important, was an engaged product team. I mean, they had basically read about this tool, opportunity solution tree, and they've started to think about it, and were like, yeah, maybe we can have a look at this thing. And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's try. And the third part is really product leadership, and it's not just me, also the PM in that team and all the other PMs, you know, like creating that possibility of experimenting with frameworks as well. So these were our three key ingredients. There was not a major grand plan. That's not what we did. And that's my first tip for you. If you're thinking about working with continuous discovery, do not over-engineer the process. Don't even use the word process that everyone feels like, oh my God, what are they doing? You probably have a team that is already the team that talks more with the users. There is a team that maybe is motivated, some there, you know, you need a couple of people that are motivated that are gonna bring this forward. And you might also have someone that is already talking frequently with the customers. These are your hero. Start there, because that worked really good for us. I'm gonna take a sip of water while I keep this there and let you think. So at this point, we had this strategy. We wanted to test. We had our hero. And the action started. I'm gonna show you now. I made a break of all the rules of presenting. This slide that I'm gonna show you is gonna be super text heavy. But I'm gonna go step by step. But why did I do it like that? Because I really wanted to show you step by step how we built that first three. So let's go ahead. First thing we did when we realized that is that, one, we connected that outcome, so that customer behavior, with the goal. And in our case, we also work with OKR. So we put out there the behavior, we collected it with the objective, and we collected it with the key result. And that was creating basically the top of the tree, making all the things connected, so this will not feel like something else. This is something that we do to work with our OKRs, not in parallel with our OKRs. So this is really important. We see the behavior, and we can also start asking ourselves, how do we actually measure it? How do we know if we're successful with those key results? Second part, rarely. I mean, the team that was working with this is not that they were like starting with a white paper. Almost never that's the case. So what we did is that we took all the things that the team was working on, and we kind of placed in this mapping. I mean, are they connecting with this key result? Are they connected with the outcome? Are they connected or not? So we started to populate the tree. And here already we saw some things were not really connected. And then start thinking, shall we do them? Answer, no. They are against the strategy. 3. And this, sounds easy, but it's a complicated step. Where you have your objective, where you know how you measure success, where you map what you were doing, you also have to put there the opportunities and formulate opportunities. And what is opportunities in the Opportunity Solution Tree framework? Opportunities are customer problems or gains formulated from a customer perspective. This was something that was not the easiest, because we tended at the beginning to formulate from our own perspective and not from the customer, but actually trying to understand if we had a customer problem or gain was really important also to sort out. And last but not least, when you have this beautiful mapping, you also have to decide what you want to discover. You might want to discover at the top of the tree. Are you sure that you have the right objective? Are you sure that you have the right key result? Are you discovering up there, or are you discovering a solution? That's really two different things to do. But I mean, with this mapping, you should be able to have a hunch. Where do you have doubt? Up there or down there? And there you start. And now I'm going to show you how these first three look like. You see, really structure. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be beautiful, right? It was a mess. It was a mess. You see it? Embrace the mess, because discovery is messy. And I mean, I'm going to try to guide you this beautiful mess. Up there, the red one, those one were the goals with the key result. You see, this is in our mirror with a bunch of questions. The green one were the opportunities, the one under the solutions. The color coding up there, you see like this bluish. Those are the things that we were sure about with data. The other ones we're not sure about. And by the way, this was for a quarter. I'm not joking. This was for a quarter. So you see that like this thing, only by doing this, you see, yeah, one we're kind of doing too much. Yes. We have 3 different goals. Yes. We have doing stuff. Why do we have doing stuff here, doing stuff there? I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So we are not committing to anything here. And yeah, we should maybe sit down and decide what to do this quarter, because we're kind of like spread really thin. And I don't even have here the things that we throw in the trash, because they were not mapping in this. But I mean, doing this beautiful mess was really helpful, because what we did discover was really some positive things. First thing is that you are not able to work with this if everything is formulated from a customer perspective without talking with the customers. So that basically kind of forced us to have customer interviews. We do them every other week at least, because otherwise we cannot product develop. And that was not the case before. The other thing is that even though it was messy, at the first sight, you could see that, okay, where are we working on? Up here, up there, right? This goal, the other goal. At least you could have a conversation around it. Comparing and contrasting was easy. At least we had a tool to compare and contrast. And also, this, what I think the most beautiful thing about the Opportunity Solution Tree is that it's really easy. I mean, if you put it on a paper, you kind of branch it out. Everyone understands it at a glance. So having a common language to have this kind of discussion was also something that was the direct positive effect of this. But any tool, any framework, anything has some dark sides. And we also saw some dark sides. No, this is not going to solve all your problems. I'm going to just say it here and now. It didn't solve it for us, at least. One question. We have, how do you choose opportunities? Which level? Who does it? Is the team? Is the stakeholder? Is the strategy? Is the OKR? Who should need? The team went ahead and thought they could, and then it turned out that actually we should have synced much more. How do we do this? Yeah, you know, that was one of the reverse cat moment. How do we do it? The second thing is that, yeah, you had some question when Jana was talking. I mean, we have discovery, and discovery can take time. How do we make this work with planning? Discovery, delivery, where are they crossing? Do we redo, which we did in the beginning, these 3 every quarter? Sounds a bit like, no, not the way to go, but that's what we did. I mean, how do we work with this? Third part. And that's about the opportunities. Are we really solving customer problems, or are we trying to shoehorn in things that we think we should do in the Opportunity Solution Tree? Should everything be in the Opportunity Solution Tree or not? And last but not least, we work so much with discovery. I mean, at this point, we started from one team. Now all our product teams are working with this. So in this 1.5-year journey, everyone is working with this. We talk so much about discovery that actually we think sometimes that everything is a discovery, but not everything is a discovery. Sometimes we know, then we shouldn't treat that thing with this framework, because that doesn't make any sense. But that's not the easiest thing to do every time. Which brings me also to a really important thing to me. Frameworks are really easy. I sometimes say frameworks are cheap. You know, you see it there most of the time, you think to yourself, oh, of course we should work like this. But this really important part is to make them work in real life. And also understand that what works for us, it might not work for you, because everything is so extremely contextual of your organization and what you're working and building. So the next part of my slides is what had worked for us really concretely. And hopefully you're gonna have some inspiration or some ideas, but always have this slide at the back of your head. This worked for us. It might not work for you, because everything is contextual. But let's have a look. When we were trying to scale up and we had all these questions and dark sides that popped up, how did we solve them? The way we solved them is creating a toolbox to support our discovery at scale, meaning some toolbox that all our product teams could work while they were working with the opportunity solution tree. Because this is exactly the same. When you build a product, you start, you find market fit, and you have some problems that you think, I'm gonna take care of them later because they are annoying, but they are not super annoying. But when you scale up, yeah, then if we're not aligned with all the stakeholders, that's going to be a big mess. And that's why we need this thing in place. And these are the three things that work for us that I'm going to walk you through how we did. The first one is the outcome-based roadmap, really similar to what Jana has talked about before. The second one is that we added an extra step in the opportunity solution tree to actually make it explicit that to have assumption testing. And the third one is one might say simple things without to make the discovery process easy, but without those simple things, we will not be able to run it like every other week. First, outcome-based roadmap. Before I go and talk about it, I want to take a step back and look at this word here, opportunity. How many here are PMs or has been PMs? How many of you have worked with the opportunity assessment? Yeah, I think that was like one of the first things that I did when I was a PM back in the days. And the important thing is that the opportunity assessment, what the word opportunity means there, it's a business opportunity. So in an interesting area where we should invest. The opportunity in the opportunity solution tree is something else. So one thing that we learned is that when we talk about we're going to pursue opportunity, we're talking already one level down without aligning one level up. What is the business opportunity that we are actually solving? And I'm going to go through our failure. That's where we failed badly, because we were talking about the opportunity without thinking that business opportunity connected there was like what everyone thought we should work on. So that's why we started with the outcome-based roadmap. And business opportunity, I put it there, for us is basically an interesting area of investment where we see business and customer potential. And this is a tool to align on that. Exactly as Jana was saying, is basically like aligning, are those the problems that we want to solve for our customers? This highlights business opportunity. I'm going to show you how it looks. And we do this before actually building the opportunity solution tree. This is the top of the tree. We do 3 years. So we kind of create, I'm going to say a Swedish word or a Danish word actually, smorgasbord. Basically like it's a table with all delicacies that we could eventually eat. But then we point at them yearly, and then when we point at them yearly, those are our OKRs. It looks like this. So we have the business goal connected with the business plan of the budget. We have our outcome, we have our success metric, and then we have the business opportunity. I'm going to give you a real-life example for us so you can kind of look how it looks like. In our case, a big part of the revenue comes from listing. So property listing, you know, when you want to sell a property, that's a part of our revenue. So we have classic in the budget. increase the listing revenue by X or 20%, let's say. Then it comes again, the strategy. How do we do it? That's the behavior, right? And here we have the majority of property seller by VAS, it means value-added services. So basically, you upgrade your listing. And they think that when they do it, the product has value. If we do that, then not only we have upsell, but also like we create that virtuous circle. The way we measure this acronym, a lot of acronyms, sorry. ARPL is average revenue per listing. That's one way we measure it, and the other one is conversion. And then here you have, two business opportunity. Both of them could be good. Should we then, to do all of this, should we then work with increase the value of our premium package? That's one way, fair enough. Or should we work with rebundling all our packages? Also fair enough. And this is where the conversation with stakeholders needs to happen. Because what we did is that we picked one of those without thinking, and then we went really deep into it, and we were misaligned, and we figured out too late. So this is what we use to actually counteract that, so we not do the same mistake in all the teams. Assumption testing is the tree was something that we also learned the hard way. And what we did is basically add an extra step in the opportunity solution tree to make explicit what we need to validate before investing in solutions, or even in discovery solution. When I say investing, doesn't mean that we build. For us, this discovery is basically iterating as many times as possible before building stuff. But even that iteration takes time, right? And we first need to validate the assumptions. How we did it? We add an extra layer to the tree, and I'm also going to show how it looks like. And we do that while building the tree, and we do it continuously, because hopefully we are wrong sometimes, so we have invalidated assumptions, and that is going to be there, like in our faces. It looks like this. This is our tree, right? We have the desired outcome, or that behavior that we want to have. We have some insights, the opportunity, data, solution, and assumption. Here's the real-life example. Here's exactly what I took from the product strategy. Consumer wants to use Hemnet first when looking for a real estate agent. Product strategy, up there. That's what we want to do. The insight is that through user research, right? And to do that insight, we talk with customers. And we realize that, you can relate to this most likely if you any time bought a property. Before, or sold a property actually. Before choosing an agent, you want to read or know different criteria. The opportunity here is that consumer wants to have an easy way to find all those different criteria in one place. We know that 27% of the seller think that having sold in that area is something important when choosing an agent. Then the solution could be to create an area search for agent. But what do we have to do before actually going into that solution? We have to validate the assumption that area search actually will solve that problem, and putting it out there. And that's the very first thing, the purple one that we'll do before actually discovering the solution. And that's also we learn the hard way. I'm gonna go into how we learn that. And this, if something, those two tools, were really, really useful, are really, really useful for us when we scaled up continuous discovery. But these ones, it's like mandatory to even start with continuous discovery. And those are really 4 tips, really important, that work for us. First, you need to make recruiting customer easy. There was such a burden on the shoulder of that user research and UX in that first hero team. They couldn't take it. It was like, it was so much time. What we did, we put together all our UX or user research as a team, They are 9, because we have 9 teams. So they do a rotating schedule. So everyone is like responsible for it on rotating schedule every other week. Took away so much admin. And that basically was super good for us to actually go out and talk to customer. Then I know that we are in a super luxury position, because I explained to you the platform we have. We put out there like a poll, like today, and tomorrow we have 20 people to talk with. I know that not everyone has that luxury, but even though we had it, we didn't do it because it was such a pain in the ass, excuse my French. The other thing that we did that worked really, really well is that we work with product trios. So this discovery work, the trees, is not the entire team that works with it. You know what it is. The more people you have in something, the more time, decision, contrast, and everything. So for us, what worked is that 3 people take the lead, and it's a PM, it's a UX, and it's a tech lead. And they are the ones responsible to building the tree, driving the tree, assumption testing, talking with the user, putting the numbers, organizing everything. And then, of course, they put it to the team. But they are the ones owning it. It's not the entire team that's owning it. And that also has been really impactful for us. This goes together with the first one. The other pain in the ass for our researcher were organizing the insights. So when you sit and you interview 5 customers every other week, it's huge amount of data. And I mean, putting those together and categorizing it, I mean, it was such time consuming. So what we did instead, we created a template, and they always interview in couple, and one already put things in the template that is in Miro. So basically it takes 5 minutes after the interview is done to have everything organized. And in this template, it's already structured as our opportunity solution 3 Rs. So when you put it there, then you copy paste in your tree, and you're done. And this one was my personal thing, and we're gonna go into that. You need some champions to make it work at scale. You need some people that actually help the teams do this. And for me, I'm super grateful. I have 2 directors, 1 UX director and 1 user research director, that do not work in a team, but work and support all the teams working with this. And we could have not done without them, literally. To you, whenever you're Dan and Niklas, whenever you're gonna look at this, we love you. So this is what worked, right? But how did we get to this? I know you were waiting to our major failures. I'm gonna go through them. I have 3 really big ones. I said these frameworks came to us by these failures. First mistake. So we built our tree, we did our assumption, no, we didn't do our assumption, we built our tree, we did our solution, we validated the hypothesis and everything. We were kind of ready to push that button, but we couldn't, because we have failed to identify the stakeholders that we had to talk with. And in specific case, was a B2B discovery. And the learning is that we have not put there who we needed to validate things with. So this is the old validation in the tree, that's where it came from. We also failed to identify all the stakeholders that should have been involved. And especially, we did not think that B2B in many cases in our experience is more a relationship game. So if we want them to be part of this, and if you need them to have a buy-in, then you need to take them in much, much earlier. And you can do discovery with them, I mean, nothing with that, but you cannot go with like a solution that they're not being involved, because they're gonna push it back. That's what happened to us. And also that was a really, I mean, we could have, I mean, we've done it, that this happened, it was April this year. Since then, we iterated much more, and by putting that assumption, it has worked much better. But that was a big pain, because then we had a team that has done everything by the book and couldn't launch. And what was it? I mean, did you do your discovery wrong? No, but you could have thought about this. Second mistake, I said that we started with our hero team, right, that enabler, and we saw that process worked really, really, really well for them. So we thought, okay, let's copy-paste. Let's do it with from 1 to 9. How hard can it be? Yeah, well, didn't work. Didn't work. And this is because this is also contextual. Different teams are contextual. Team working with B2B, I mean, the first team was working with B2C, same team working with B2B and doing the same thing, first mistake that I just talked about. Commercial, non-commercial products, also really different discovery techniques. Validation widely varies depending on the product. And also, and here I'm back to your customer or like my directors helping us. Product trios are not magically born. You know, you need to help them. You need to give the time, give the support. I mean, it's not that you take a UX, a PM, and a tech lead, throw them in a room, and you're going to come out with an amazing discovery. I mean, it's like, it takes time. So it didn't work for us to take copy-paste for all the other teams. And third mistake, and this is where the outcome-based roadmap came from, we created in a team a bulletproof tree. I mean, it was so good with all the research, everything, but we failed to misalign on the business opportunity. I mean, that was misaligned. And I mean, you might think, come on, how hard can it be? Yeah, the thing is, we have an outcome, right? So we were aligned on the outcome, but we were aligned on the direction, but we were not aligned on the how. Because, I mean, pushing, for example, those revenues that I talked about, both those two solutions were fair enough. But we just picked one without talking with the others, and that's where the misalignment came from. So this is where the whole outcome-based roadmap came from. And also just to say what happened was also that we communicated a lot. But the thing is, like, we communicated so deep in the solution that like the stakeholders failed to identify that we had another kind of misalignment. So that is also like, you know, when you communicate so much, but it's difficult to understand for someone that is not part of this work. So yeah, I hope that you will not do the same mistake as we did. So in our 1.5-year-long journey, what did we learn? Processes need to evolve as you go with it, as you evolve your organization and your work with discovery. For us, at least, B2B is undoubtedly more complex. I mean, there's not even comparison for us. I mean, B2C is much easier than B2B. And frameworks are easy. Implementation is really hard, especially if you do it at scale. Because if you do it with single teams, the failures are not going to be so painful. To summarize, 3 things that I want you to take with you home. Opportunity Solution Tree, I think it's a great tool. I mean, it's really simple, it's straightforward, it creates empathy with your customers, it's going to drive you to be more customer-centric, and it's also going to help you prioritize. Do not over-engineer it, and especially take what I said and adapt to your organization, because that's the thing. It's going to be highly contextual to you. Thank you so much. I put there that I heard like a shameless disclaimer, we're hiring. But if you're looking at you know, product-led company, yeah, we don't have that many of those painful stakeholder discussion. But also, one way I learn is by writing. So I write a lot of these things and how I apply these frameworks on my blog. So I put that there as well. And I also want to say I'm gonna be here if we have some time for questions, but if you wanna talk, I'm gonna be here. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francesca. Great talk. So we do have a few minutes for questions. I might just take the first question myself, if that's okay.
Of course.
I know we were chatting.
You should ask them if that's okay.
Is that I'm the only person blocking them from lunch at the moment as well, so it's probably not the best time to ask. Yeah, because I mentioned to you before, it's something we're trying ourselves. in a B2B situation. Do you have any tips? Does the tree look different, for example, in a B2B versus a B2C? Any tips around that?
The structure of the tree did not look different in itself. So all the trees were structured in the same way. And I think, for us, that works because we are working with OKRs on a company level. And that, having the structure that mirrors the structure with the OKR is actually going to help you connecting that work with the opportunity solution tree with the deliveries on the OKR. So the structure in itself it's the same still. But my tips for B2B is maybe in the beginning to do a really deep stakeholder mapping. Who needs to be involved and which assumptions need to be validated and who do we need that thumbs up in validation from. That will be my tip.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so we'll just take a few questions if there's any. Just raise your hand. Yeah.
Hi, Francesca, thanks for that. I think Marty Kagan could publish another 3 books and not come to the level of insight and inspiration that I gained from your talk today, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
It's really, really good. And that, that opportunity tree that you showed us is, by the way, the tidiest that I've ever seen. Ours are significantly messier. But I'm
not gonna say that to Marty.
Ours are just incredibly messier than that. I'm just curious, what would be your view on, as you were talking, I couldn't help but think that maybe an idea for me to experiment with would be to run a couple of these opportunity trees with a customer on the phone. Just to see if we're actually, you see, I'm in the B2B space. We specialize on property management systems. And there is a lot of middlemen, and sometimes, we don't even get to talk to the end users. We're really kind of talking to the implementers, the IT people, the buyers. So I'm kind of wondering if there might be value to explore on putting together our opportunity tree with a person who actually uses the product on a daily basis. What do you think about that?
I think that should be your person to explore, because with them, you can explore different steps of the tree. The first thing is that, because you need your user, right? For us, it was like, now I took property sellers or like more a B2C, but we also have agents, real estate agents, or like a platform for them, exactly as you were talking about. There you can validate the top of the tree with them. So make sure that actually the behavior that you're driving, what can you do to help them? The formulation of that should be your top of the tree. And then you can also use them. And then that's the first step that I would do. Sync with them on how to do your top of the tree. Then let the team do the research. And here you have to be, I don't know how your market look like, but you have to find a balance, as usual in B2B, when you do this investigation to are we building first for one customer, or are we building something that solves all customer problems? So it's good if you start with one, and then you make sure that you're not sub-optimizing for that customer. And then you can come back to the customer or that person using your products to validate the solution. That I will also do. And one thing that we did with B2B is also we offered them that were part of this work with the tree, some kind of beta usage of some kind, so we could get even better. Because sometimes you have oh yeah, I think this could be useful. And then when you actually build it, they're never going to use it, so you actually do not want to build it. So by giving them some kind of beta app they could use, we were able to avoid building something that will not work.
Thank you.
So yes, long story short, yes, take those customers in a room.
Super, thanks.
More questions in the room?
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed this presentation. The question that I have, can you please advise who are you involving in your discovery? Are you involving, for example, sales and marketing? And what are your recommendations? That's the question. Thank you.
Great question. We are involving, that goes back a little bit, who is the team working with discovery? I mean, we are involving all the stakeholders. I mean, and who are the stakeholders? Depend on the product. I mean, we don't have a one-size-fits-all, and that depends B2B, B2C, commercial, non-commercial, etc. But we involve all the relevant stakeholders, for example, sales, marketing. We also have support, for example, a stakeholder. We have business development as stakeholder. We have our data as stakeholder sometimes. But we involve them to have a conversation around business opportunities. They also are the ones, you know, when you do that mapping of business opportunities, those 3 years things we could do, they can also react and saying, oh, we're lacking this, or this and never gonna work, or oh yeah, this is gonna take forever and a day. And that conversation is taken with stakeholders. But then when we align and go deeper into the 3, I think my advice will be to let the product trio work. Because if you get too many people in the room, you're going to be extremely slow. And the whole point of doing this discovery is to get really fast. You want to have a lot of iteration. And then when the trio feels, okay, we have something stable that before going and building it, then you can bring back stakeholders to kind of, you know, get the final. I don't even want to call sign-off, because the sign-off should come from the customer, but so that they are, again, aligned on what we're actually, the solution of that problem that we together thought was the most important to solve.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
First of all, I think you've won the slide competition. They're just gorgeous.
Thank you. I mean,
Well,
that's like both what I feel like. I think in colors, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. Because when I want to give feedback, not so many people dare to give me feedback, because sometimes it looks too pretty.
Well, we've certainly been wowed by the beautifulness of them, and that it helps clarify the message. But I've one question with regards to the multitude of opportunities that could potentially come out in terms of those business opportunities, and that is how to deal with noisy CEOs. Bearing in mind that our CEOs are generally wonderful, lovely people and have lots of wonderful, great ideas, hence why they started the business in the first place, especially if the CEO is your founder.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that noisy CEO in actually validating those opportunities and that tricky stakeholder engagement?
Great question. I have the great pleasure of working with an amazing CEO that actually gives, I mean, she says it's my job, right? I mean, it's my job to make sure that we have the best process in place so we can pick the right opportunity. And it's my job doesn't mean that I should be that noisy person pointing up. But I mean, I have to create something so people can come together and find those. So I have not experienced these frameworks with a noisy person wanted to decide because probably, yeah, I had that experience before in my career, but not at Hemnet. What I would do is try in the beginning to make them part of this opportunity solution, creating the tree. So make them like 3 or +1, kind of. But then they need, in that sense, I would also make sure that they have a commitment, because they need to then be a part of those customers' interviews. They need, or at least read them. So, you know, there is alignment in that sense. But I mean, the very first thing that you have to crack there is to make sure that the CEO has the mindset of thinking about what the result and not like the outcome and not the output. Like that's the very first conversation that I will have. You know, it's like, I mean, in these things, I mean, in area search, yeah, I mean, maybe a CEO could have come with another idea. And I mean, of course, I mean, we can talk about that. But I mean, we have to agree that the most important thing is that to figure out how to make those people come to us first when looking for a broker, right? Is that important? Is that gonna take in the millions? Yes, okay. And then if you're willing to go and drill down solution, then come with us in this journey. But otherwise, if you don't have the time, the patience, then we make sure that we inform you what we found. And if you are that person, you can have the final thumb up again. But I would take that outcome over output conversation first. And I know that I'm grateful for my CEO and for my platform and for my products. So I know that I'm talking from a really luxurious place.
Hello. Okay. I have a question also. I think first, congratulations for your presentation. It was amazing. I liked it very much. And I think when you are working in a B2C and we have this kind of trio of product manager, product designer, and tech lead is quite perfect. I worked a lot in this kind of system. But when you have like a SaaS company and we are in a B2B arena, it's sometimes harder to make this kind of process work because, for instance, sometimes for the same software, we have like 20, 30 different use case or user personas using our platform. And I would like some tip when you have this situation, how can we ace this process of discovering in a B2C software SaaS company?
A question just to get a little bit of context. Do you have product teams working with this platform for the different customers?
Yes, in fact, we have a group of customers, but they have different use cases in our platform.
And is the same product team that handles all the different use cases?
Yes, yes. We have just one product and we have different uses for this same product.
So the way that I know too little of your context, so this might be a total failure if I would get so like from this perspective. But I think that this process could be applied to any kind of product, because that basically, if you zoom out, what does this do? This makes sure that you actually focus on the most important things, and then you have like a goal that you want to achieve, and then you try to make a process of how to achieve that goal. So that's what it is. So it can be, to me, applied to any kind of a product. The complexity that you are describing, maybe what I would try to do is like not go with the really complicated outcome to start with, but maybe have a discussion of which use case is the most important to focus on. Which use case will bring the most revenues or the most uptake of the products or whatever your metric that you're trying to drive, and start the tree from there. That's what I would do, because that's most likely the thing that you will have to work on first anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
We do have an online question. How did the product trios find working in this way compared to how they worked before?
Great question. The way they work now, it's not perfect, I also want to say. If we talk again in 6 months, I'm going to have other failures and everything we do different. But what I've heard from them is that they really like it. And both the trio and the team really likes, because there's someone actually taking that ownership of the work. Also someone going deeper with the interviews and with knowing the customers, and all the three of them participates together. So it's not only the PM that maybe was the one that was pointed before. That's a good part from the product manager. It's like it's working together. We also have, as a company, this value. We succeed together. And I'm really, to me, product manager is a team sport. That's why we need diverse opinion. That's why we need people to come in, because otherwise I'm going to think that something is amazing, and then I'm going to give it to you, and you either are confident enough that you give me feedback, or you think my presentation is too pretty, and then you say nothing, and then it's going to be a failure. So, working together from the beginning actually is a way of pitching together and seeing different angles, and also is a way of making responsibility clearer, which it was not before.
Amazing, thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much again, Francesca. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.